let's all face it, like doing this job as a freelance videographer, filmmaker, content creator, whatever you want to call it, um, there are a lot of times where it's very lonely. Like you're dealing with a client and it's just you. And like maybe you don't have other creators that you can call on, or maybe sometimes you're afraid to call them because you don't want to sound stupid. I know I've definitely personally been there. And so we went on to Reddit, and we found this very interesting story that somebody was sharing, and it sparked a conversation between me and Jarrell. Now, a lot of times when we have our conversations, we finish them and we go, "Dang, we should have just recorded that.
Yeah.
That would have been a great clip or whatever." But this time we decided we wanted to actually bring it to the show. So I'm gonna let Jarrell start off by sort of telling the story, and then chat. We would love to hear your feedback on how you would handle this. But then we're gonna give our honest, and when I say honest, I mean like our honest thoughts, uncensored, on how we'd actually handle these situations.
Yeah, this is coming under r/filmmakers. All right. So this story goes like this. Everything I want to do better myself as everything I want to do to better myself as a filmmaker gets put on the back burner. It's nearly impossible for me to even attempt to work on my reel because I hate all of my past projects. But when I think of filming a new project, I get scared that it will look terrible. I think worst case scenario all the time and will never get anything accomplished. I just think of all the time that I've wasted with this career, quote unquote. I went to college to get a good network and to get familiar with different equipment, but I hated college because all the filmmakers I had in my classes were judgy, and I couldn't click with anyone. And the equipment we had was a joke because the quality looked horrible and we weren't allowed to use our own stuff. So I didn't buy a camera because of that. And now I still don't have a camera because I'm poor. So now I've graduated, but have little to no experience actually shooting a film or know what position I want to pursue. My fault, I know, but I don't know how to get out of this loop I've been trapped in. I just avoid any stressful situation unless I have to do it. I want to be a filmmaker, but I'm feeling really lost and overwhelmed. That's a sucky place to be in.
Dude, when he said I'm feeling lost and overwhelmed, that hit me so personally, because there's been so many times in this career where, like, you know, whether it's you're looking for clients to put you on retainer, or where it normally hits me the most is like you have a retainer and you think they're going to renew, and then they're like, we've decided to go a different direction with our marketing budget, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like, it's in those moments where I think you just like overwhelmingly like have this doubt. And then on top of that, you add in the fact that like I personally deal with like imposter syndrome on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like everyone has been here. And so I wanted to just kind of open up that conversation and just sort of like talk through this a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. And I think this even prompted the next section where we're going to go back and look at old stuff that we've shot and really just kind of be able to evaluate it. But yeah, when he said, I hate everything that I've shot, that's like, have you guys looked back on your past work and just like kind of cringed a little bit? Or do you look back and do you love it? We'd love to know from you guys. But no, that definitely resonates, because in the moment when I've made something, I've been like, oh, that looks pretty good. I like it. Like, oh, you know, maybe some things to change for next time.
Yeah.
But several years pass by and I'm like, oh my gosh, that looks terrible. Like, let's forget about that. Thank you, Vimeo and Dropbox, to be able to go down memory lane. But yeah, 100%. I think somebody said this in the comments where they're like, first, I think this guy needs counseling. I think the tough part is I feel like there's so many things going on inside, maybe emotionally, because it is possible that everything he shot doesn't look good, but it does sound a little bit like there's some, like maybe just inside the head a little bit when looking at his past projects.
Yeah, I totally understand the idea of, because I will say I personally didn't go to film school,
Hmm.
right? But if I did go to film school, the only reason why I would be going there is for the network,
Hmm.
because I do believe that you can learn all this stuff on your own. I mean,
Hmm.
I've done it,
Yeah.
right? The other thing is, one thing you have to learn about your work, and I heard, ironically, I heard Mr. Beast say this
Uh-huh.
about YouTube videos, which is that like every 6 months he looks back at his videos and he hates them,
Yeah.
and he should.
Hmm.
And that sort of opened up something in my mind, which is like, if I don't love what I'm doing today, or if I put out a video and I'm like, man, it really could have been better, or I really should have done this, or like, in 6 months, I should look back and think that my work is bad and that I should be possible like continuously moving forward. And if I'm currently stuck on a project and I don't love how it's coming, like I need to finish it out and then go back and learn and sort of dissect it and see what could I have done better. Because I believe that I think Scott just put it in here and it's like a big one for me. He says, welcome to imposter syndrome. Art is never finished, it's abandoned. The moment you embrace that, the better you'll be. Also, you'll rarely be criticized from someone who's better than you, which all those facts like bleed so true.
Yeah.
Like, first off, imposter syndrome, no matter how good you get, it never goes away. I've had the pleasure of shooting content directly for Red, the
Hmm.
brand that like I would have never dreamed in my career. Like,
Yeah.
my dream was to own one of their cameras, never to work with them. I never even thought that was even possible, right?
Hmm.
Even on those projects, imposter syndrome setting in the entire time.
Yeah.
Like, you were with me on another project we did with Nikon,
Hmm.
right? The entire time I'm going through that process, imposter syndrome is sitting in. And I'm just trying to tell myself, you made a plan, stick to the plan, let's finish it, and then we'll live and we'll learn from it, right?
Hmm.
It never goes away. But the one thing is that when a project, like, you always have this idea that, like, oh, eventually I'll get to a place where I will just love everything I make and it's always going to be amazing. And like, no matter how high I have like interviewed different directors, DPs, people have done stuff like on Netflix or done stuff like in theaters, they always have something where they're like, yeah, that really could have been done better. Or yeah, well, we ran out of time here.
For sure.
Or, I look back at my old work and it's terrible. And I look at their old work and I'm like, it's better than my work today.
Well, this is so interesting. And this guy's a little political, but I listened to like a business podcast. And so Patrick Bet David, he talked about somebody asked him, what are you planning for 2025? And he said, I need to take where I'm currently at and go to the next level. And that seems like a very like basic on the surface. But he said part of that, why we don't actually end up doing that,
Hmm.
is because what we have to do is we have to look at where we are currently right now and determine there are areas that I can improve
Yeah.
and there's areas that I can get better. And how do I evaluate my current self right now
Hmm.
in a way of saying, I haven't arrived, I haven't gotten there, I'm not the best version of me right now. And then what do I need to do to get to the next level in 2025 and define those goals, write them out clearly, and then go after it. And like, to me, that just kind of resonated that if you have gotten to a place where you've just fallen in love with your work, that's not like a bad place to be in, but there's a very good chance that you're in a very small fishbowl. Not necessarily that the work that you're doing is not important, but you've kind of gone to a pond where you are the biggest fish and you shoot the same thing or the same types of thing all the time. I think it's your drive. I think it's other people's drive. I think it's these directors' drive of constantly pushing to refine and get better and shoot bigger and to do better projects, that once you get out of that pond, you realize, oh my goodness, like, bro, I could just, it reminded me of that. I think you said it last week about Shane Hurlburt,
Yeah.
about and obviously he's incredible. He's awesome, like incredible, awesome. But like, I feel like it'd be easy to kind of feel yourself being so incredible, like lighting, DP, like masterclass, but to have an actor scream at you,
I'm sure. I mean,
like, I'm sure that and not that it's like a demeaning thing. Obviously, like that was demeaning, but like just how quickly you can realize that like There's still more to learn. There's still more to grow. There's still more to get better. That sort of stuff.
Dude, I personally, when I look at like growth and like getting better, like, yes, there are times where you look at your work and you don't love it, right? But I do think that you have to give yourself that open mind to know that like there is always more.
Yeah.
And also give yourself a little bit of like understanding that like when I step into a new field, I'm probably not going to be as good in that field, right? Like I remember I was shooting real estate for a really long time and I got to a place where I was like, oh, I got this. And then I tried to do a commercial and I was like, oh, this is totally different. How do I shoot for people? How do I frame, like, you know, how do I get beauty shots? How do I light for this? How do I light for that? And it's like sometimes even when you feel like you are, you know, locked in a certain area, changing just a little bit of that will drastically change things. I'm going to say this, and this is not to bring up any shade or anything.
Yeah.
But I have a really close friend here in Houston who does films, and I love his stuff. He's an amazing filmmaker, right? And constantly he'll reach out to me and be like, yo, I'm not getting this YouTube thing. And I'm like, dude, you're an amazing DP.
Yeah.
You know how to light, you know how to shoot, you know, all those things. You have storytelling dialed in.
Thank you, Brandon.
No, not you. And but when it comes to like YouTube, it's a different beast. Same thing. It's video. Video is video.
Yeah.
But when he goes YouTube, he can't seem to put all the pieces together. And that same thing happens. And it's like with him, he has the humility to just be like, hey, okay, so like how do I hook them? Like the first 30 seconds, like what needs to be there? And then like, when do I add my calls to action? Cause like he understands, like, yes, he understands video, but sometimes just moving into a slightly different field will change how your skills replicate over. So when people look at YouTube and they say like, oh yeah, YouTube's easy. I make films.
Yeah.
Like, well, I don't know.
This
It's not
is
as easy.
This is genuinely not to gas, but I felt very this way about Instagram, where I'm just out here posting. And obviously, like the account starting from nothing, because like before, like wasn't really posting. And like in just a few minutes, Brandon was like, oh, you got to do this, this, and this. And you got to stop doing this, this, and this. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh, that makes so much sense. Because yeah, just because you can turn on a camera, craft a beautiful image, light it, mic it, do whatever, does not mean that people want to watch
What you're putting out.
And so 100%, no.
Yeah, and I want to give a shout out to Mr. Cam Mackey with the super chat. He says, W for the mental talks on this live. The community needs it. Dude, like this is really the reason why we do this show live. Let me get you with your super chat, Cam Mackey. But this is the reason why we do this show live.
Yeah.
Is because we want to be able to have the conversations that you guys are looking for and also to build the community. One of my favorite things is like I got a DM from somebody who watches the show who's become friends with somebody else who watches the show, and they just hang out. They just talk.
Yeah.
And it's like this is a community aside from the two of us. And so if you guys are ever struggling with things, you can always DM us, but you can also reach out to other people in this community, because at the end of the day, we personally believe that like as creators, it can be a very lonely process, but it's important to have other people that you can lean on to. You can call people and ask them questions. I call people all the time. I called Brandon Talbot yesterday and was asking him certain questions about like how they're running their business and their podcast that they're doing. So it's like, it's important for you to reach out to people and ask them questions and not try to do this thing alone. So
for sure.
And that means going further than just posting on Reddit and hoping for a response. Find actual people, and we'll try to do our best to try to cultivate that community ourselves. Hey, thanks so much for checking out this clip. But you know what's better than watching these clips? Enjoying the show live, which we do every single Friday at 11 o'clock Central Standard Time. The best part is if you disagree with what we have to say, you can tell us that live in the chat. So we'd love to see you there this Friday.